Picture this. You wake up early in the morning, lace up your shoes, and head to the gym, not after a bowl of oatmeal, not after a protein shake, not after a single bite of anything.
It's your fault!
Just you,
Liar.
your body,
Coward.
and an empty
No
stomach.
excuses.
Most people in
Why
that
did you
gym would
do
look
it?
at you like you've
Traitor!
made a serious
Own up!
mistake. You're gonna lose muscle. You'll crash halfway through. You need fuel to train. These are the things people say, things that have been repeated so many
This right
times
here
that
is
most
the
of us
central
just
nervous
accepted
system,
them as truth.
responsible
But
for
what if
sending
the
signals
science
throughout
tells a
your
completely
entire
different
body?
story? What if working out on an empty stomach is not the reckless mistake people think it is, but actually one of the smartest things you can do for your body? Today, we're going to tear apart everything you thought you knew about eating before exercise, and by the end of this, you'll see your body, your fat stores, and your morning workout in a completely new way. Before we get into anything, a quick but important note. What you're about to hear is educational content based on real science. It's not medical advice. Everyone's body is different, and if you have any health conditions or concerns, please talk to your doctor before trying any of this. That said, let's start from the very beginning, because to really understand why fasted exercise works, you first need to understand something most people never think about: where your body actually gets its energy from. Your body stores energy in two completely different forms, and understanding both changes everything. The first form is glycogen, which is essentially glucose that's been packed away in your liver and muscles for quick use. Think of it as your body's fast-access energy drawer. The average person stores around 400 to 500 grams of glycogen, which gives you roughly 1,600 to 2,000 calories worth of energy. Sounds like a lot, but this supply only lasts around 12 to 24 hours depending on how active you are. The second form of stored energy is body fat, and this is where it gets truly fascinating. Even someone who's relatively lean is walking around with tens of thousands of calories stored in their fat cells. That's not a small reserve. That's enough energy to keep you going for weeks, sometimes longer. So why isn't your body already burning through all that fat? Here's the frustrating truth. Your body has a strong preference for using glycogen first. It's faster, it's easier, it's the path of least resistance. As long as glycogen is available, your body will keep reaching for it, and your fat stores just sit there, largely untouched. But when glycogen starts running low, after about 12 to 16 hours without eating, something shifts. Your body has no choice but to go looking for another fuel source, and that's when it starts unlocking your fat stores in a serious way. Now here's something that might genuinely surprise you, and it surprised me too when I first came across it. The food you eat right before a workout doesn't actually fuel that workout. Not directly, not in the way most people think. When you eat something, it sits in your stomach for anywhere from 2 to 5 hours while your body begins breaking it down. Then it moves to your small intestine where nutrients are slowly absorbed over the next 4 to 12 hours. So that banana you ate 30 minutes before hitting the treadmill, your body hasn't even processed it yet. The energy powering your workout is actually coming from what you ate yesterday. When you feel that boost after eating before exercise, that feeling comes from hormones your body releases in anticipation of incoming food, not from the calories themselves. Your body is running on stored reserves, and the pre-workout snack is mostly psychological. So what actually happens inside your body when you decide to exercise after a 12 to 16-hour fast? The first and most obvious benefit is dramatically increased fat burning. When you haven't eaten in many hours, your insulin levels are low, and insulin is the key player here. When insulin is high, it essentially acts like a lock on your fat cells, preventing them from releasing stored fat. When insulin is low, that lock disappears. Fat is free to leave your fat cells and flow into your bloodstream to be burned as fuel. A comprehensive analysis published in the British Journal of Nutrition reviewed 27 separate studies involving 273 participants, and the conclusion was clear and consistent. Aerobic exercise performed in a fasted state leads to significantly higher fat burning compared to exercise performed after eating. Some of those studies measured fat oxidation rates that were 20 to 30% higher during fasted training. That is not a small difference. That is your body being given full permission to tap into the very stores it normally keeps locked away. The second major benefit is something that most people have never connected to exercise or fasting, and it might be the most powerful one of all: growth hormone. Growth hormone is produced by a small but extraordinarily influential gland in your brain called the pituitary gland. It does two things that matter deeply when you're talking about fitness. It helps build and repair muscle tissue, and it signals your fat cells to release stored fat for energy. Now here's what makes this so remarkable. Both fasting and exercise independently trigger the release of growth hormone. When you combine them, the effect doesn't just add up, it amplifies. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism tracked healthy men under different conditions. During exercise alone, growth hormone levels jumped rapidly to more than 10 nanograms per milliliter. During extended fasting, levels ran about 3 times higher than normal throughout the entire day. Other research has recorded growth hormone spikes of 5 to 14 times the baseline levels in both men and women. When you train fasted, you're triggering both mechanisms at the same time, which means more muscle protection, more fat burning, and a hormonal environment your body almost never gets to experience otherwise. This leads to something that seems almost too good to be true, but is backed by solid research. When you exercise in a fasted state, your body actually works hard to protect your muscle. People hear fasting and immediately panic about muscle loss, which is completely understandable. But your body is smarter than that. Muscle is essential for survival, for movement, for strength, for literally everything. Your body knows this. When food is scarce, it doesn't want to break down the very tissue it needs to function. That's why growth hormone rises. That's why the body prioritizes fat as its fuel source instead of muscle. From an evolutionary standpoint, this makes perfect sense. Our ancestors spent thousands of years waking up hungry and needing to physically perform, to hunt, to gather, to move, before they ever got to eat. Those who became weak and mentally foggy when fasted simply didn't survive. The ones who stayed strong, sharp, and capable on an empty stomach are the ones who passed their genes down. That ancient programming is still inside you, and fasted exercise activates it. The third benefit is something that's going to matter to you far beyond the gym, and it has long-term implications for your health that compound over years. Insulin sensitivity. Insulin sensitivity is simply how well your cells respond to insulin. When sensitivity is high, your body only needs a small amount of insulin to move glucose efficiently into your cells. When sensitivity is low, which is called insulin resistance, your body has to pump out more and more insulin just to do the same job, and over time, that leads to a cascade of serious health problems. Here's the good news. When you exercise, your muscles become more receptive to glucose even without much insulin present. And when you're fasting, insulin is already low to begin with. Combining these two factors teaches your body to manage blood sugar more efficiently with less insulin required. Research consistently shows that fasted exercise improves insulin sensitivity more effectively than exercising after eating, and that improvement lasts for many hours after your workout ends. Over months and years, this is one of the most meaningful ways you can protect your metabolic health. The fourth benefit is something that catches most people completely off guard, especially those who've never tried it: mental clarity. Not a mild improvement, but genuinely noticeable sharpness, focus, and alertness during a fasted workout. Most people expect to feel foggy and weak without food, but the opposite often happens. Part of this comes from a protein called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which supports the growth of nerve cells, enhances learning, and improves memory and cognitive function. Both fasting and exercise independently increase BDNF production, and when you combine them, the effect is amplified significantly. Then there are ketones, molecules your liver produces from fat when glucose runs low. Ketones cross the blood-brain barrier and fuel your brain directly. Some research even suggests the brain functions exceptionally well on ketones, possibly even preferring them over glucose in certain conditions. Add norepinephrine into the mix, a neurotransmitter that surges during fasting to promote alertness and sharp focus, and you start to understand why so many people describe their fasted morning workouts as some of the most mentally clear, focused, and productive experiences of their day. Now, not all exercise responds equally well to fasting, and this is where the practical side of things becomes really important. Low to moderate intensity aerobic exercise is the best match for fasting training. Walking, easy jogging, light cycling, gentle swimming, the kind of exercise where you can still hold a conversation without gasping for air. At these intensities, your body primarily burns fat for fuel. It doesn't need much glycogen, and it doesn't stress your system in a way that requires immediate glucose. If you are brand new to fasted exercise, this is exactly where you should start. A morning walk before breakfast is one of the most underrated tools in human health, and there is real science behind why it works so well when done in a fasted state. Get comfortable with this first before you even think about pushing harder. High-intensity interval training and sprinting are a different story. These types of exercise rely heavily on glycogen because when you're pushing at maximum effort, your body needs quick energy, and fat simply can't be broken down fast enough to keep up. After 12 to 16 hours of fasting, your glycogen stores are already partially depleted, which means intense sessions may feel noticeably harder than usual. However, and this is important, research has found that after several weeks of adaptation to lower glycogen availability, the body learns to compensate. It becomes more efficient. A study found that after 4 weeks of adapting to very low carbohydrate intake, participants maintained their high-intensity performance because their systems had learned to cope. The key word is adaptation, and it takes time. Don't jump into a brutal HIIT session on your first week of